the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Friday, August 11th. This is the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, joined as always by CJ the Hitman Hickman and Jason Cabrera. What is up, fellas?
What's going on, man?
Not too much. We had some football. It was preseason
football. No, a couple more weeks and it's over, thank God. You know.
CJ's not a big fan of the preseason.
No, man, I don't. I mean, I like to scout players, but then after a while, it's like, okay, I'm done with this.
When you're in the fourth quarter and it's all players that you know for a fact are not making a team in the NFL, bar none, they could just call it there.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah. It's funny because you always hear the commentators like, oh, they're taking a knee. I don't think this is a really good idea. They should be trying to get more snaps in, but everyone's like, no, do it. Let's end this. To each their own. Anywho, we have an amazing show for you guys today. Today, we're going to be taking a look at our consensus running back rankings. This is going to be part one. We're going to get through our running back ones today. Of course, we're going to bring you all the top headlines from around the league as well, so quite a bit to get through. We'll try and power through to the news, or through the news, I should say. First off, make sure you guys subscribe to the show. We are all over the place, iTunes and Stitcher and YouTube and all over. You can follow us on Twitter at the FF Fanatics, on Facebook at facebook.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. You can email your questions as well to thefantasyfootballfanatics@gmail.com. You can support the show over on Patreon at patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Get yourself a bonus podcast every single week. For all the listeners out there, you may have noticed there was a bonus show that came out this week. That's a look back at a Patreon show that Jason and I did just a couple of weeks ago, so you can get an idea of kind of what it is we do over there. So that was a pretty cool show, talking about the impact of all the head coaches in new places, and of course how that trickles down to the fantasy players, their coordinators, all that stuff. So it was a good show. I enjoyed it. So, if you guys like that, you want to get more of it, that's exclusive usually to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. And, of course, the most important bit of news. This is our final reminder, because by the time we record again on Tuesday, we will be reading off the winners for the iTunes Listener League Review Challenge. You have through the weekend, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to play against the three of us in fantasy football this season, all you have to do is head over to iTunes, subscribe to the show, give us a rating, give us a review. That's it.
And bring it.
And down the line, if you are selected, then you have to bring it. But yes, once you have done all of that, make sure you end your review with a Twitter handle or an email address, and you'll be automatically submitted to be randomly selected to play against us in fantasy football. We will be picking the winners and reading them, announcing them on Tuesday's show. So you have until Monday. Get them in. And we'll get to future deadlines as we get there. Don't want to overload you. We're going to keep on pressing on. No warm-up because there's too much to get to today. A little bit of news. There were injuries, but we're recording this show basically right as the Thursday night games are concluding. A little peeling back the curtain there. So we'll break the injury news as we get it, probably on Tuesday's show. But some things to definitely talk about. Now, for starters, moving on to the running back position, according to multiple sources, now even including NFL's Ian Rappaport, the ruling on Ezekiel Elliott's investigation could be coming down as early as tomorrow, a.k.a. today, a.k.a. when you're listening to this right now on Friday. So you guys may have already heard something by the time you're listening to the show. We don't know, but just saying it's imminent. So as we get to our rankings later on, some of us have already made contingencies for that. So there'll be a little disclaimer right there. A little bit of other news. The Atlanta Falcons running back Devonta Freeman signed a 5-year, $41.25 million extension. Keeps him in Atlanta through the 2020 season. So congrats to Devonta Freeman. Just became a much richer man. Let's see. Arrowhead Pride's Pete Sweeney reports that Kansas City third-round rookie running back Kareem Hunt continues to see more first-team reps in camp. Now, I'm sure this is just magic to CJ's ears here. CJ, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh, I love it, man. I love it. Get that Spencer garbage out of the way and just take that spot, man. Just let it just be anointed to you. I mean, you have to earn it, but, man, good gracious, man. You're just making this man Spencer look silly. Just making it look silly.
Jason, what are your thoughts here? Do you think that Kareem Hunt has a legit chance to maybe work his way into the rotation as early as the beginning of the season?
I think so. I mean, he's extremely talented. I think he's a better overall running back And I would love to see it. Honestly, I think he's the best option for them, and he gives them more opportunity.
Checks in the mail, Jason.
Wow. All right. So anyway, you're saying it is a running back committee there. He's going to have to earn snaps, but it just further concludes how much I don't want Spencer Ware because the touches are going to be so limited. So something to keep in mind, folks, as you get into your, obviously we're not going to talk about Spencer Ware today. None of us have him as a top 12 running back. But, as we get into running back twos and waiver wire guys, these are things to think about. Last bit of running back news. New England running back Mike Gillislee has been sidelined for the last week with a hamstring injury. So that's, of course, not good news. This is a guy who, by all accounts, should be taking over the LeGarrette Blount role, could be a complete back for them, 3-down back. In the wake of him being out, the New England Patriots have listed Dion Lewis and James White as their starters in their most recent depth chart. So something to think about. They did just play a preseason game. So, as we said, as we have a chance to analyze all the film, because we haven't had enough time to watch all the games, and we get back to you on Tuesday, we will have updates. A bit of wide receiver news. Oakland wide receiver Amari Cooper has missed the last 5 practices with an undisclosed leg injury. Guys, what are your thoughts here?
That bothers me. That really bothers me. He's going into the year that everyone's expecting him to take that big step. I'm hoping that they're just being overly cautious and giving him some time off so he can recuperate and be ready for them. But that does bother me. I don't like leg injuries, especially when you're talking about receivers.
CJ?
Yeah, this is bad news if you're a Amari Cooper fan and you were expecting him to have a bounce back. This is not a good start. Not a good start to the season.
No, it is not. So something to keep in mind if you were planning on drafting him. Maybe bump him down a little bit. Just saying.
What the hell is that?
What was that?
Just saying. Maybe there's a lot of hype around him. This being the magical third year for Amari Cooper, the big potential breakout season. He puts it all together. Well, let's get down to the bottom of this leg injury and see what kind of timetable we're looking at here. Still early. Could be, nothing to worry about, just something, to think about. Maybe I've already bumped it down my board a little bit. If this is a soft tissue injury, it could linger. If it's a more serious knee injury, it could cause him to miss time. So we will see. Maybe there's more news on specifically what it is, but I could not find it. So we'll have more information as we find out. Moving on. According to new reports, there is now no contract extension expected for Miami wide receiver Jarvis Landry. Now, this is most commonly linked to the fact of the investigation that we were talking about on last week. That wasn't last week. That was on Tuesday's show. So, expected? Did you guys think that this might be a complication that came with the whole investigation with him and his baby mama?
Yeah, I expected this. Until this gets cleared up and he comes out clean and doesn't have any dirt on him, then yeah, I did expect this. And this type of organization, especially after the Ray Rice thing, a lot of teams are steering clear of this, and they'll let good players walk.
Why have to bring Ray Rice into this? There's so many other people who have done worse.
Look. First of all, he doesn't play with you anymore, so don't take this personal.
I will, though, because we've been trying to replace him ever since.
Well, I understand, but he's not. He doesn't play with you anymore.
He doesn't play with anyone anymore.
It's gone. It's over. So don't take that personal.
Okay, fair enough.
He's going to, though.
Jason, your thoughts?
It makes complete sense. The team is going to protect itself, and that's what you got to do in this situation until you know for sure with clarity that this is done and it's over and there's a suspension or whatever else happens. Then you move forward. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Pretty straightforward, yeah. As we learn more, you will know more out there, but information is pretty tight-lipped right now. We still don't know all the details surrounding the circumstances. It is just being commonly linked that one is leading to the other in this situation with this contract extension. So Jarvis Landry, he could be, most likely will be a free agent after this year. So something to think about. Let's move on to Tennessee Titans first-round rookie wide receiver Corey Davis, which, as we mentioned, had a hamstring injury. He has recently said that he is definitely still week to week, which is never what you want to hear. Day-to-day is scary enough as it is sometimes. So, Corey Davis is downright probably undraftable at this point. He's missing all of this time to build his rapport with Marcus Mariota, learn the offense, get his timing down, all of that. So maybe somebody to pick up off the waiver wire down the line, but I've pretty much steered clear of him even as a late-round flyer at this point. What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I really like the kid. He's going to be fantastic, but with all the injuries and missing time and everything, it's risk mitigation. Late round, I wouldn't even take him in a late round. I'd wait for the waiver wire, and I'd probably wait for a couple of weeks before even thinking about picking him up.
I'd have to see something first.
I'm sorry. I think this guy, we all like him. I definitely like him. I think he's one of the complete running backs. I mean, not running backs, wide receivers that came out of this draft. So, it's tough, but I was looking at him waiver wire anyway. So regardless, even after this, this injury. So
Top 5 pick in the draft,
and he might be something for you later on. So it might be a name you just keep an eye out on the waiver wire and be able to stash on your team, because I do believe that he will break out this year.
Potentially. I agree. Definitely the most complete receiver. He was a top 5 pick in the NFL draft for a reason. The big concern has always been that he went from being possibly this number 1. They brought in Eric Decker. Now he's lost in kind of the depth chart. They've got a pass-catching tight end in Delaney Walker. They've got 2 running backs there. They like to run the ball. There's not a lot of passing volume. So it's just a very cluttered situation. We've talked about this extensively in the past. So, yeah, I like Corey Davis a lot. He's going to be a very talented and probably big producing wide receiver in this league. But, unless he does some amazing things before the preseason ends, he's not draftable to me. Let's move on to an update to a report that we had on Tuesday's show with almost New Jersey. Well, their stadium's in New Jersey. The New York Jets wide receiver Quincy Enunwa is officially done for the year with his neck injury. No short-term IR expectations coming from him. So scamming for Sam like some bosses. So
man, like a boss.
We'll move on to Bleacher Report's Mike Freeman, who reported that at least, quote, half dozen teams, end quote, have tried to lure Calvin Johnson out of retirement, but that he has not entertained the possibility. Now, this was interesting.
Contract, right?
That was what I was going to start with. Like, he is, we talked about this in the past. He's still under contract, technically. The Lions still own his rights. He did come out and talk about how he was interested in playing, but he had retired because he didn't want to be throwing his body essentially against the wall with no possible, Super Bowl aspirations in sight.
Right.
I think this is the last year of his contract, though. I think after this year, he's a free agent. I'd have to check. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts? Do you think that there's a possibility he comes back? I mean, he'll be 32 next year, so that's something to point out as well.
But it's still what he's been retired for 3 years now?
3 years? No, he's been retired for 1 year.
1 year?
Yeah, just last year, buddy.
Was it last year? Wow, it seems longer.
Yeah, it feels a lot longer than that. But anyway, you might be looking at another Marshawn Lynch situation. I mean, he takes a year off, or will be 2 years at that. This time next year, and he goes to the right situation. I think this. I would definitely welcome back with open arms. I mean, I just want him to be able to go to a good situation, that could a team that has playoff aspirations, and you can be able to link up with them.
What are your thoughts, Jason?
You know what I think? I think that Arizona is a really nice place for ending up your career. I think you should really think about maybe looking at some of our really nice homes we have over here, and I don't know. I really think you'd like it here. Honestly. I think you would. I would love to see Megatron back in the NFL, and I think that he would be absolutely fantastic anywhere he went. I mean, he is absolutely dominant, and I would be ecstatic if Arizona picked him up. I don't care how old he is going to be dominant.
I would too, especially when Carson Palmer retires. So that would be a perfect situation.
Wow.
Great. Then we wouldn't have anyone throwing the ball. So.
Oh no, you'll have somebody. Yeah.
Like who?
You got Gabbard.
Who?
You got Blaine Gabbard. You saw how good he was.
Blaine Gabbard. He looked great in preseason.
Yeah, come on, the Gabster. Come on now. That's your guy.
Okay.
Wow.
I like Blaine Gabbard.
There you go.
Blaine Gabbard. But if you're saying he's going to be better than Carson Palmer, We know about you and your quarterbacks. We know about you and the quarterbacks.
He's not very good at them. For an update, he is under contract, at least initially, through 2019, so they would have to release him. I'm trying to see if there's any updates or amendments to his contract. I don't have the full one right in front of me, but we'll talk about that later. It's just an interesting talking point because Megatron, at one point, even in fantasy and real life, the number one wide receiver, potentially going to a better situation with a better team, depending on which one of these teams they are. There's plenty of wide receiver needy teams out there. There are teams with really good quarterbacks that could use the upgrade. So without knowing who these teams are, it's all up to the imagination. But it's fun to think about. Though the possibility seems kind of like a long shot, especially because the Lions are very likely to keep him because he would be an immediate upgrade over anything they have in Detroit right now. All right, so that wraps up the news. Let's go ahead and move into our topic of the day with plenty of time. Let's see. Oh, yeah, we still have 45 minutes. Let's do this. We are getting into our early... Well, not early. We did our early. These are our number one running back consensus rankings. So we're going numbers 1 through 12 here, and we're going to talk to you about why they are where we have them, who has them where their ADP is, and, of course, the arguments surrounding them. So let's start right off the top with a guy who is universally the consensus number one. I can't think of a time that I've seen even a full-point PPR, full point per reception, taboo, where this guy is not the first pick off the board. He is average draft position of 101, and that is number one on all three of our boards, David Johnson. So, of course, this is probably going to be long-winded, but we have to throw it to the resident Cardinals fan of the group. Jason, tell me about David Johnson. Why is he so deserving of being a unanimous number one overall pick?
Real quick, Jason, please.
First, shut up, CJ. First off, I shouldn't have to be long-winded when talking about David Johnson. You guys saw what he did last year. You know what kind of player this guy is. He is a massive, extremely fast player with amazing hands. He makes you miss. He can run you over. He can take over an entire game. He did over 2,000 total purpose yards last year. He's looking at 1,000 receiving, 1,000 rushing this year. So overall, this guy is the linchpin of the Arizona offense, and he's going to continue to be that way.
Okay, all right. There you go, 2 minutes.
Hey,
all right, listen. David Johnson.
CJ, he's going to actually fly to Maryland and kill you, just FYI.
Hey, well, he'll help the show, so why not? Listen,
it'll be good to see you.
David Johnson is an absolute beast, man. He's been killing it ever since he came into this league, man, and he's in a perfect situation in offense. I mean, the coach wants to give him the ball. He is the offense. That's why he's number one, hands down.
Great analysis there. David Johnson, like you guys have said, he is a beast. I mean, this guy went out and gave you 1,200 rushing yards, just under 900 receiving yards, and a combined 20 touchdowns last season. Now, they've come out and said that it was done in a way that was not exactly how they wanted to make the offense work last year, but they had some problems. Certain players got off slow, others got hurt. But they've also come out and said that they're committed because he missed, of course, reaching 1,000 rushing and 1,000 receiving yards by, 121 yards. So they have come out and said multiple times that they're committed to getting him to that 1,000 threshold. I mean, you're looking at a guy, if he gets to 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns, that's easily flex-worthy wide receiver 3, maybe low in wide receiver 2 numbers there, on top of a guy who's rushing for 1,200 yards and 16 touchdowns. Now, I'm not projecting him to do that. I have him getting, I still have him being a beast. I have him going actually up in rushing yards, down in receiving, but I have him getting a good 15 touchdowns this season, which that's a lot to predict for one player, and he could easily outperform that.
And what year is he in?
He would be going to the third year, his magical third, I think is what you're leading to. He was an older player coming out of college. He is going to turn 26 this season, so that's something to think about, but he's still way young enough to handle this workload. I mean, they were talking about how they ran him into the ground last year. A lot of people have mentioned that, but, I mean, he didn't even have 300 rushing attempts. He did have 80 receptions, so he was in on basically every play.
He was used a lot.
He was used a ton.
Yeah.
But, there are other players out there that we're going to talk about which got above that 300 rush threshold. So, I like David Johnson. I think he would have gotten that 1,000 if he didn't get hurt right in the beginning of Week 17. So, it's a little bit too bad. But, hey, it's fuel for the fire, and all these stats, they translate directly into fantasy production. So David Johnson, safe bet to take as your number 1 overall pick. I mean, if you don't, it could be this next guy. Some would say you're an idiot. Some would say that this next guy, who is our consensus number 2, is deserving of that spot, but there's risk involved with this next guy. And our number 2 consensus running back is Le'Veon Bell. Now, obviously, Pittsburgh Steelers. He's going as the number 2 wide receiver off the board as the second pick in the first round. So far, we're 2 for 2. Pretty exciting. Now, CJ and I did not move. I have him at 2. CJ has him at 3. Jason, you have moved him up to 2. I mean, you moved him up 1 spot, but hey, you did it. So who wants to take it away here? Talk about Le'Veon Bell.
Well, listen, I'll take it because the guy that I have it 2 will get to him later on. But Le'Veon Bell, look, he's an absolute beast. You saw what he did last year, and he missed games and he came back and still put up those numbers. So just imagine what this dude would have done if he didn't get suspended and he just played that all the way out. Now, we talked about this with the contract year players. I believe that Le'Veon is going to have a beast season because he's not only because he's just absolutely beast in the playing, but he's playing for respect for the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. He wants to get that contract, and if he doesn't get that contract with them, he wants to be able to set the market when it comes to the running back position to anybody else that wants to bring his services in. So it's something about having a guy on your team that's playing inspired, that's playing with disrespect in his mind. Like I feel like this dude, especially with Kirk Cousins too, man. Those 2 guys, man, are playing inspired, and they're gonna be coming for people's heads this year, man. So me personally, I like Le'Veon Bell, and he's most likely gonna be moving up for me.
Jason?
Yeah, he pretty much covered most of it. Le'Veon Bell is extremely productive. He is the David Johnson of Pittsburgh. They use him for everything. He gets a lot of passes out of the backfield. He is extremely elusive, difficult to bring down. My only problem with him is he's a little bit smaller than David Johnson, doesn't have the body, and gets hurt a little bit and gets in trouble a little bit. So these are risks that I like to mitigate, which is why I have him at number 2. I had him at number 3, and we'll talk about why that changed here in a few minutes. But overall, Le'Veon Bell and David Johnson, by far in my mind, the top 2 guys this year.
Yeah, well, like I said right off the bat, you could make a very compelling argument to take Le'Veon Bell over David Johnson. He actually was on a much higher rate of volume per game. He missed 4 games, like we were talking about. He only played in 12, and he had only 5 less receptions than David Johnson, and was only behind him in total touches and rushing attempts by about 30 rushing. So he got a huge workload, and that's what he does. It's Le'Veon Bell, but of course there's risk involved with that. There's injury risk, not severe. It's not usually high risk type injuries that he's had, but he's had more of one than David Johnson. Suspension risks, he's had a couple of those. I'm not too terribly concerned about that either, but it's a possibility. There's the maybe not being ready, and maybe so he does get hurt because he's been kind of holding out right now. He's playing under the franchise tag, and he's not happy about that. So, there's arguments that can be made either way, but if it's not one, it's the other. These are the number 1, number 2 pick on almost every mock draft that I have done this entire offseason, and appropriately so. They're going to get you a ton of production. If you were to multiply Le'Veon Bell's points out over a full season, he easily finished as a top 2 running back, and therefore that's where we have him right now. So Le'Veon Bell, number 2. Pretty painless first 2 guys, and it's really after this point it starts getting interesting. So
it's meant to be a breeze.
Starts to get wonky.
It's meant to be a breeze.
Let's hold our breath there and see how this plays out. At number 3, we have not Ezekiel Elliott. We have LaShawn McCoy. Now, LaShawn McCoy, Buffalo Bills, of course. I have moved him up to 3. Previously, he was at 4 for me. Jason's moved him up to 4. Was previously at 5. CJ, listeners at home are going to notice a very common trend. CJ has not adjusted really any of his top 12 running backs, save for one.
CJ knows what he likes.
He sticks to his guns. He knows what he likes, and not easily swayed apparently. So it's going to come down to you and me, Jason, how these guys have moved. So he's our consensus number 3. He's currently going at an average draft position of number 4 as the 6th pick in the first round, as the 4th running back, I should say. So who wants to take this away? LaShawn McCoy, Buffalo Bills. I can start. I mean, the guy was a monster. He put up I don't know if I can say career numbers, but easily the best numbers that he has had since he has been in Buffalo. Now, there's been a lot of concern as well, though, because, they had a changing of the regime there, new offensive system. But with that, we've heard all these reports that Tyrod Taylor is really struggling. The wide receivers, some of them are dealing with injury. We've heard reports coming out that are suggesting that LaShawn McCoy could be the leading receiver on the team, on top of a guy who last year had 1,267 yards and 13 rushing touchdowns. So, I mean, the big knock on LaShawn McCoy, Shady is always kind of dealing with injury. He breaks down. But, I mean, when he's on the field, he is incredibly productive, incredibly elusive. He makes small plays into big plays. This is a guy who is just going to be featured in this offense. He's going to get a ton of touches. He's going to get a ton of targets. There's really no good reason not to take him as high as we have him, except for maybe the injury risk. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on LaShawn McCoy?
Good, CJ, it's your guy, man.
Oh, my guy? Oh, okay. I thought you were going to do it. So, listen, my only thing with LaShawn McCoy is that, I mean, I everything that you said, Griffin, I believe in, and I couldn't disagree with that. I think when you look at LaShawn McCoy in this offense, I think he's the only safe guarantee in this offense. Like you said, they've got new coaching regime in there. We talked about their belief in Tyrod Taylor, how it's shaky and it's questionable. But LaShawn McCoy is going to be that guy. That's that guy that I think that Sean McDermott is going to be able to count on and rely upon while Tyrod Taylor gets everything going down. So all the opportunities, I see it coming to LaShawn McCoy's way. The only thing is, can he stay healthy? If he stays healthy, I think this is a great running back for you that could be number 1 and that could have and put up type of numbers like our previous 2 guys that we just talked about.
Jason?
I really like LaShawn McCoy. He's got the ability to do a little bit of everything. He's in the same mold as David Johnson and Bell, like what CJ just mentioned, and that's the way of the future. I mean, we'll talk about Joe Mixon later on in another show, and he's sort of in that same mold. Big back, he can do a little bit of everything. Who's got speed and elusiveness as well as power that can run through the tackles and cut to the outside, catch the ball. He does everything. And having him paired up with Tyrod Taylor, if they get moving a little bit better with this new regime, I think this could be a really dynamic offense this year and surprise a lot of people.
Also, a couple things that I want to point out on why you should be excited about Shady. Of course, Mike Gillislee is gone. He's in New England now. So that's 101 rushing attempts, 577 yards, and 8 touchdowns gone. So, I mean, that extra production is going to go somewhere, and it's not just going to go to the backup, Jonathan Williams. Jonathan Williams is an okay backup. He's no Mike Gillislee. Oh, and by the way, we said we weren't going to get into the injuries, but Jonathan Williams did hurt himself in the preseason opener. So, I mean, this looks like it is LaShawn McCoy all day, every day. He's just going to get crazy volume. So this is a guy who you could easily say is, in that top tier running back. I don't think you could really argue it except for the injury risk. Anything you guys want to add before we move on?
Moving on.
Nope. We pretty much covered it all.
All right, well, then let's move on to this next guy. Number 4 on our list, probably expected to hear him at number 3. 2 of us have made adjustments so far for the pending suspension, and that is Ezekiel Elliott. Dallas Cowboys. Now, we have him at number 4. He, of course, is still going at the number 3. And as the 3rd pick in the first round, I moved him all the way down to 9, redoing the numbers. So that seems like a steep drop, but that's the way it worked out, missing an estimated 4 games. You moved him down to 5. CJ still has him at 2. So, but we all, and with the news that we talked about beforehand, we're all basically expecting that there is going to be a suspension. The appeal process is possible. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts here with Ezekiel Elliott? Is 4 too high? Should it be lower? What are your thoughts?
Well, depending on the suspension, like we said before, I was going to drop him down to, no further than 10. I mean, if it goes past 4 games, I'd say that we was a second round pick. But with the appeal, could still be a thing. I mean, he's still going to play, and it just depends on how long that appeal takes place, and then where that goes. I still think you should get him in the second round because that possibility of maybe it's like a Lane Johnson situation, with the Eagles. Lane Johnson tried to do an appeal, and then I think it was after the 4th game he got smacked with a 10-game suspension. So that's probably going to hurt you. So I think anything after the second round is good for him. Just you just don't know how long the suspension is going to be.
True. Jason, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, it depends on how long he's suspended and when he's suspended. Because as we mentioned already, there could be an appellate process where they appeal the suspension, and then it could cause you some problems later on. But I still have to keep him in my top 5 just because he is so productive and he's probably going to get better this year. And they've still got one of the better offensive lines in the league, and they still are going to lean on him a lot when he's there. So, yes, he does take a tumble, but I think he still stays in the top 5 for me.
I mean, I would still argue, yeah, he's easily a top 5 running back, but, based on stats-wise and what I think he's going to do, because he misses 4 games. And for you as the fantasy and this is just what we're hearing right now. We don't know anything. If you're listening to the show right now, who knows? You probably know more than we do. But we're speculating. This is late Thursday night, early Friday morning. So we're not really we're not really sure what the official ruling is going to be. But if he misses 4 games, so that right there, that's a big chunk of your fantasy season. Then he comes back for week 5, and then their bye week is week 6. So basically, you're not getting Ezekiel Elliott really consistently until week 7. And so you have him, for half the season, essentially, week 7 through 14. So, I mean, is he going to make up a lot of that production in that time? Absolutely. He's going to get the ball a ton. They're going to have to start featuring him more in the passing game because, they're going to probably be playing from behind. That defense took a huge hit in this offseason, so they're probably not going to be playing from ahead as much, trying to run out the clock. And we know he has that skill set, but also that offensive line, as we talked about a little bit, it's still, as Jason mentioned, going to be one of the best ones in the league, but they did take a couple hits this year in free agency, so there was already reason to be concerned, which is why we were saying Ezekiel Elliott was our number 3 instead of our, in the argument for 1 or 2. But the pending suspension, that is a huge hit. And just the way that it works out mathematically, for me, that dropped him down to 9, and I thought originally it was going to be higher than that. Now, that being said, if he misses as little as 3 games, the way I have all my stats closely bunched together right now, he jumps right back up to the running back, top 5 position, like you were saying. I think he slides into my running back 4, actually, which is exactly where we have him as a consensus. So, when we know more, this will be a much clearer picture. It's all speculation at this point, but we didn't want to just give you guys a straightforward answer when, because people are going to listen back to this show throughout the month leading up to and through your drafts. A lot of people, we hear this all the time. They download the show, they save it, they come back to it, they repeat, they play it, whatever the case may be. So we want to make sure you guys knew the broad range of spectrums. If he misses only 3 games, do you guys even make adjustments in your rankings?
No, 3 games, no. I would already have it planned out. If I see the 3 games, I already planned out who I'm going to have replacing him for those 3 games.
All right. Jason?
Yeah, I agree. I think right where I have him, I think right where I have him is where he'd end up.
You would still drop him down to 5 for 3 games?
That's a good question. I mean, it's going to depend on what's going on with the other guys, how I feel about the other guys. I may slide him back into my top 3, but he's going to stay right around there. He'll be between 3 and 5 for sure.
Yeah. And like I said, I already did the math. I know he slides in at 4 for me, with just simply 1 more game back. So, yeah. Suspension news will add a lot of clarity. If you're listening to this show right now, listen to our Running Back 2 show. That'll be Tuesday, because we'll probably have an answer by then. So we'll talk about it then. But, yeah, let's go ahead and move on. Ezekiel Elliott, incredibly talented, great situation. All the same things as last year, a couple tweaks, but missing games, that it kills you for fantasy. Moving on to we're still taking him, as we mentioned, in the top 2 rounds. So, all right.
Right.
Now, that being said, moving on to number 5, we have Marshawn Lynch, Oakland Raiders, who we are a little high on as a show. We are taking him at number 5 consensus, but he's going on average as number 12 as the 9th pick in the second round, though he has been rising quite a bit. Last time we did the show a couple months ago, he was going as the number 17 running back as the 4th pick in the 4th round. So he's moved up a couple spots. Everybody seems to be raising on him. Both Jason and I have moved him up a couple spots. CJ still has him at 11. Guys, why am I saying guys? Let's throw this to just obviously being reflected by the rankings alone, the guy who's the highest on us, and we've known this throughout the entire offseason. Jason, tell me about Marshawn Lynch.
I think as a show we're ahead of the game because I think he's going to continue to rise. And the reason's really obvious. I mean, he's beast mode. He is Marshawn Lynch. He's undeniable. He's got the power to pretty much destroy your line. He's elusive. And now he is playing behind, as we've mentioned many, many times, he's playing behind the best offensive line he's ever had. And one of the best offensive lines in the league. Maybe the best offensive line in the league with some of the people that went away from Dallas this last offseason. Mm-hmm. So looking at all those things together, and looking at how this team is progressing, and they're going to start challenging for a title very, very soon, I see Marshawn Lynch as being definitely a top 3 running back.
CJ, what are your thoughts here? You're the lowest.
Well, yeah, it was tough for me, man. I was trying to find some wiggle room to get him back in the top 10, man. But it's, after I first put this list together and then coming to now, it's still real tough for me. I mean, it's no shot against him. It's just the guys that I have in front of him. I mean, I love the situation that he's in. Everything that Jason says, I agree with. And then I think he's going to be very beneficial to Derek Carr. But it's just tough for me to try to get him in my top 10. But, I mean, I have him at number 11.
Yeah. I mean, like Jason said, this is easily one of the best offensive lines in the league. They were rated as so, especially in run blocking. And, as we've mentioned extensively to this point, but if you're first joining us, hi, welcome to the show. Latavius Murray, who got 12 rushing touchdowns last year. I mean, that just blows our minds based on everything we see, hear about surrounding him, the team. I mean, he has we say this all the time, he had all the attributes in the world to be this amazing top-tier player. We tried to talk him up for fantasy purposes, and we're hearing all about him across the industry, and it ended up being, at the end of the year, this prototypical back, size, build, speed, only managed to get 700 yards and change, but still 12 touchdowns, and a lot of that was attributed to his amazing offensive line. Well, Latavius Murray's gone. Marshawn Lynch is in. Marshawn Lynch, we all think, is a much more talented runner. He's a very similar build. There's no reason. Yes, he took a year off, and people are trying to use that against him. But, hey, a year to get healthy can be huge because Marshawn Lynch had such an usage in previous seasons. I mean, he had multiple years of over 300 touches, surrounded by 2 seasons where he was in the 280s before his 2015 season where his body just broke down. He's had a year to recover. He's rededicated himself to football. He's motivated to play for the Raiders. I mean, we all think that this is going to be that really cool situation where it could be the stars aligning and he could go out and put up a monster performance. I mean, like I said, Jason and I both have him in our top half of our running back ones right now. Are we a little bit high? Mm-hmm. Maybe. This could be more of a timeshare than we're being led to believe at this point. But, I mean, on touchdowns alone, he could easily return on value as a number 1 running back. So, I mean, I'm comfortable where I have him. I kind of feel like Jason might be a little bit high, but I can definitely see him getting there. So, I don't know. Anything you guys want to add before we move on?
No, I'm good.
I mean, it's beast mode. He's back.
Yeah, excited to see him back. I love his commentary.
Yep.
Yeah. And, of course,
it's good for football, and it's good for Oakland. I think this was a wonderful thing that happened in the offseason for them.
Yep, and we've heard nothing but good things coming out of Oakland's camp about him, too, as far as his play on the field. Yep. So, good stuff. Let's move on to the guy we have at number 6, which is Jay Ajayi. Miami Dolphins. Now, we have him at 6. He's going as the consensus number 9, so we're a little bit high on him as a show. Going as the 3rd pick in the second round. Both of you actually have him at 9. Jason, you moved him up to 9 from 13, so that's a pretty decent jump. I moved him up, actually, I moved him up even higher. I moved him from 12 to 5. Wow. I made an adjustment on Jay Ajayi with the addition of Jay Cutler and all the news coming out how they're planning on getting him about an extra 100 touches. Now, I'm not expecting that to be the actual case because that would get him close to 400 touches. That's ludicrous, but I put him well into the 300 touches. I gave him an uptick in targets out of the backfield because Jay Cutler loves to throw to his running backs. I mean, look at Matt Forte. Some of Matt Forte's best seasons in the league was as the pass-catching running back behind, catching passes from Jay Cutler. So what are you guys' thoughts here? That was why I gave him a big bump statistically just across the board. This is where he landed for me with the little bump I gave him with the addition of Jay Cutler in Miami. Probably with Jay Cutler being there, they're going to actually lean on the run a bit more because he's coming in late to learn the system. I mean, he knows the system, but he has to build a rapport with the offensive line, all the pass catchers, the rest of the coaching staff, because the only guy he really knows there is the head coach, Adam Gase, who was his offensive coordinator in 2015, which we talked about on the quarterback ranking show. What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I like your thinking. I mean, with Ryan Tannehill, before he got injured, you saw the chemistry they had, and it was the offensive line was absolutely amazing. I mean, he had those 3 games that was absolutely ridiculous, and then you were hoping that the offensive line stays healthy, and Ryan Tannehill takes a step in his game and maybe get him more involved in the receiving game. So now with him being injured, now you're bringing Jay Cutler in there. I think where you have him is absolutely appropriate because he definitely is going to have to lean and rely on him a lot more. I mean, until he gets really comfortable and acclimated to the system. Of course, he knows the system, but to actually get that chemistry with the players, I think that's another thing. So, yeah, I can agree with that.
Jason, what are your thoughts?
Interesting about this is it's eerily reminiscent of what happened in Minnesota when their guy went down, and here comes Sam Bradford, and he kind of made things work better, So I kind of see this as being the same kind of a situation. I think Jay Cutler going in there might be, and the more I've thought about this, the more I've kind of liked the idea of seeing what Jay Cutler can do here. Because maybe a different situation, maybe it's better for him. In Adam Gates' system, you've got Jay Ajayi, who's probably the most talented guy that he's had in the backfield for a while. He's got the really talented receivers to throw to. So I really think this could be good for Miami as a whole. He may end up working out better for them than Tannehill did. So I agree. I think they're going to lean a little bit on Jay Ajayi. Jay Ajayi might get some more passes than he's used to getting, and he may actually even him out, and he'll be more consistent. Because like we have said, Jay Ajayi is extremely inconsistent game to game.
Oh, yes.
This might change that, I think.
I was actually going to get to that because, we're all flying high on Jay Ajayi, but even though I'm the one that has the highest in the rankings, I wanted to throw some disclaimers out there. Like Jason said,
right.
Incredibly inconsistent. A lot of his production came from 3 weeks, and 2 of those weeks were games against the Buffalo Bills, which, as Jason and I talked about in that head coaching fantasy episode that we did, they brought in a number of really good defensive-minded coaches there to shore up that defense. So take those 200 games off the board. I mean, he's got 1 against the Steelers, and then he doesn't have he has 1 game where he breaks 100 yards. That's the concern. Now, the problem here also is that the offensive line was pretty banged up last year. So if the offensive line can stay healthy, keep moving, the second year in Adam Gase's system, the first year that you install a new offense, it almost never, if ever, goes smoothly. So that second year with a new offense is usually a huge step forward. So all of this and the talent of Jay Ajayi, healthy offensive line, the increased volume, these are all really good things. But the last thing I want to throw out as a warning, and this is something I preached all last season, because I, contrary to my rankings, am not a huge Jay Ajayi fan, because he is kind of a ticking time bomb. We've talked extensively. He's got a degenerative knee problem. He's basically got bone on bone, and it's going to become a pain tolerance thing before it becomes a serious problem. So, I would not be running out to get him in dynasty leagues. In redraft leagues, go for it. But if you're using these rankings to go out there for a keeper or dynasty league, he moves down my boards absolutely. He's kind of a glass cannon as well. He deals with some injuries from time to time. So just things to think about. But the upside, I really like the upside as a potential top 5 running back. Let's move on to I haven't I have him at 5. Consensus, we have him at 6. Let's move on to our number 7 consensus running back, which is Melvin Gordon. Los Angeles Chargers, we have him at 7. He's currently going on average as the 5th running back off the board, as the 9th pick in the first round. Now, CJ has him still at 5. Jason and I both moved him down. I have him down at 7 now, and Jason, you moved him down to 11. So, he went down from our number 5 to our number 7, so that is a little bit of a drop.
Yep.
Only 2 spots for me, but what is that? A good 4 spots for you. So let's throw it to you first, Jason. Why, since we've moved him down as a whole, and his average draft position, I should mention, has dropped as well. He's been going as the number 5, but he's going later in the first. Why do you think everyone's cooling on Melvin Gordon right now?
It's like we mentioned several times in past shows. Yeah, he came in and he got his opportunities, but the problem was he had a lot of opportunities and he didn't really fully capitalize on those opportunities in the way that he should have as the guy with the Chargers. So that bothered me. The inconsistencies bothered me. I really wanted to bring him down the board, and with me bringing up several people that I've ranked higher, and we'll see those as we move on. I was able to kind of move him down a little bit. I actually feel much more comfortable with him where I have him, and I feel more comfortable for the show as far as where we have him.
All right, CJ, what are your thoughts?
My only negative about Melvin Gordon is, with the recent news about the injury to Forrest Lamp and the offensive line. A little concerned about the move, but I like everything I've seen out of camp with him, man. I mean, I like his year last year. I know some people say that, just because the injuries that happened with the wide receiver position, that's why he probably took place. And I can see a point with that. I mean, but he still had to capitalize on those opportunities. So I mean, that's one thing. He had a bust of a season his rookie year, and he came out and had a good season last year. And now with more talent coming back, and if they stay healthy, I think that he can still be able to capitalize on that, because defenses can't stack the box on this guy, because they have a lot of weapons in those wide receivers position, good gracious, and the tight ends. So they're going to basically spread out defenses, man. I think he's talented enough to be able to take on one-on-one coverages and make people miss and be able to be effective in running the pass. So that's why I have him number 5 still.
Yeah. I want to find a way to get him back up to kind of where you have him. I'm only 2 spots below you. And let me preference this by saying I am not a Melvin Gordon fan. If you have been with the show since the beginning, I have openly bashed Melvin Gordon for a lot of reasons. He gets a ton of volume, and his averages are terrible. I mean, the only reason that he got 10... Look, I mean, we'll talk about his rookie year where he got 0 touchdowns. Then he got 10 last year. What's the average? Is he a 10-touchdown guy? Another 2 receiving, mind you, so he had 12 total. So it all boils down to opportunity. Danny Woodhead went down last year. Now Danny Woodhead is out of town. They didn't bring in anyone to really challenge him for that number 2 running back spot, so we assume he's getting all the volume. The wide receivers, they are all healthy, so they can't stack the box, like CJ said. So he should have better lanes to run through. Now, these are all good things. Let's go to some bad things, including, besides the fact he's not very good on average, that they brought in offensive line help, and that offensive line help has since been knocked out for the season. Talking, of course, about second-round pick Forrest Lamp. That's a huge loss for the team trying to get better at the running game. An upside, though, and this is why, because he's a guy that, based on my personal beliefs and how much I dislike his productivity touch to touch on a per play basis, he should be even lower than this. But what really is his saving grace is new head coach Anthony Lynn. Anthony Lynn, and we talked about this on the head coaching show that we did for Patreon, he is kind of a running back guru. Whatever team that he is with always puts up top half, top 10, top tier in the league running back production. We saw what he did last season with LaShawn McCoy, making a huge jump from 2015 to 2016. He kept Ken Wisenhunt on as the offensive coordinator, so there's familiarity there. He's got a good rapport with Phillip Rivers. So there's just so much to like in this situation, and he's getting the volume. So he has yet to play a full season. He's not great on a per touch basis, but on volume alone, he's going to probably finish somewhere in here. And if Anthony Lynn can help him take that next step in his magical third year, I mean, the sky's the limit. So Melvin Gordon, I have him as, kind of the middle of the pack, number one running back. I could easily see him outperforming that. I could easily see him underperforming there. So that's kind of why I kind of like where I have him right now in my rankings. Anything you guys want to add?
No, I'm good.
Jason?
No, I think you got it.
All right, let's move on.
You got it.
Number 8, we have Jordan Howard, Chicago Bears. Now, he is our number 8 running back. He's going as the number 8 running back, though he's taken a dip in the rankings to number 8. He was higher than that last time we did the show. I believe he was the number 6. He is going as the second pick in the second round. So we've all cooled on him. Players across the fantasy football and analysts and experts have cooled on him. Why do you guys think that is? Because I have him at 12, CJ at 6, so CJ is the highest. Jason, you have him at 7, where we originally had him at 8, 6, and 6. So I've made actually the biggest drop here. But what are you guys' thoughts?
Well, I hate the fact that I had to drop Jordan Howard. I like Jordan Howard a lot. I like the way he runs. My problem is that this offense has been completely overhauled. They've completely changed the way the offense looks. We don't even know who the quarterback's going to be, though any indication of what we've seen in preseason so far looks like Trubisky might actually have the inside track. But Jordan Howard, that bothers me because I don't know how they're going to operate. I don't know how many touchdowns Jordan Howard is going to get. Trubisky loves to throw these little short out routes and intermediate stuff and things of that nature. So that could work in his advantage. That could work to his disadvantage. I really don't know, and that's why I kind of had to drop it.
CJ, what are your thoughts?
Me, I like, you go back and look at the kid's first preseason game. I like what he put out there. He put out some good numbers. Mm-hmm. So I mean, and he definitely outperformed Glennon. Now, granted, you gotta pump your brakes a little bit. I can tell myself pump your brakes a little bit, CJ. It's only first preseason game, but if he continues to play like this, I think undoubtedly he has to earn the starting position. If he does do that, I think this helps him. Meaning Jordan Howard will help him become a better quarterback because he will take the pressure off him in the running game. Man, Jordan Howard, we saw last year. He was absolutely phenomenal. They're getting some pieces back on the offensive line that's going to be healthy. The only thing that would hold him back is if these receivers don't play better. Like they don't be able to help him out, so they don't have to. They can't stack the box against him. I think they have some talent in the tight end position that will be able to help too, with Shaheem if he rises. And we talked about Zach Miller being on his way out. I just think there's pieces on this offense that could be able to help Jordan Howard to be more effective, so he doesn't be a nominee for the Todd Gurley Award for last year. So, if everything else works, I think that Jordan Howard should have a good year, and I got him finishing top 5 in fantasy.
Yeah, for me, I like Jason, am really bummed that I had to bump Jordan Howard down, and unfortunately, there's a lot of reasons for it. Because, Jordan Howard, holy crap, out of nowhere. What an amazing rookie season. He came out and was the second leading rusher in the league. 252 rushing attempts, 1,313 yards, only 6 rushing touchdowns. He did catch another touchdown, so that got him to 7 on the season. But he also, putting this out there, he did this basically missing the first 3 weeks of the season. He didn't actually take over the workload until week 4. So, extrapolate those numbers out over full 16 games. Holy crap. So, he amazingly productive, but there's a lot of reasons that you kind of have to go the opposite way, and we've talked about this a lot. Jordan Howard, he is not very good at catching the ball. That is not his strong skill. He only had 29 receptions last year. A number of targets bounced right off his hands. Who they do have that's really good at catching the ball is, of course, Jeremy Langford. Jeremy Langford is their pass-catching back. He's very good. He's fluid. Now, when Jordan Howard's able to get the ball in open space, when he gets that dump off, he's incredibly dangerous. He's beyond the line, and we love that. But this is a team that we're all expecting to be in, a pretty serious competition for a high-end draft pick next year. Sorry, Chicago fans, but, there's a lot of holes on this team. There's a lot of problems. This team is going to be playing from behind a lot, most likely. All indications are pointing to that as well. So if they're playing from behind, they're not going to be able to just run the ball a lot. And if they're not running the ball, they're going to be passing, and that's not what Jordan Howard is very good for. So because of all this, I unfortunately had to move him down my stats. I made adjustments for my rankings, my stat layout, and he came in where he is as my number 12 running back. And I really hate having him that low.
Wrong.
He actually fell lower than that, but I was like, no, I'm not letting Jordan Howard go as a running back too. So I made some adjustments, tweaked some things, and got him into my top 12. But I'm really genuinely concerned about Jordan Howard's workload this season. The defense, they've got problems. The offense is going to probably struggle to move the ball. Mike Glennon, which, again, we haven't broken down all the film. We've just seen a lot of the highlights. But Mike Glennon, if you look at the stats, really struggled in last night's preseason game, but as we talk about, Mitch Trubisky had a pretty darn good outing. Again, this is all super preliminary. Week 1 of the preseason, vanilla offense versus vanilla defense, so it's really not that telling, but it just adds another wrinkle in that we're not really sure how this is going to play out. Could Jordan Howard go out there and be a beast? Absolutely. He was a beast. He could easily do that and better. But there's a lot of concern here and enough reason for concern to move him down, which is why I think he's cooling across the board. He's moved down. He was originally a first-round pick. He's now down in the second round. He is now going right where we have him as the 8th running back off the board, where he was going as the 6th. So, these are all things you have to take into account when drafting Jordan Howard. I think that the floor is safe with Jordan Howard. It's the ceiling that is in question with him. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I could say that.
Yeah.
All right, well, with that, let's move on to our number 9 player. We have Devonta Freeman, which having him this low also kind of feels wrong, but, there's a lot of talented running backs this year. Devonta Freeman, Atlanta Falcons, just signed that new monster contract, going as our number 9 running back. He's going ADP-wise as the number 6 running back, as the 10th pick in the first round. Now, I have dropped him a little bit. He went from 7 to 8. Jason, you moved him from... Oh, wait, you actually moved him up from 16 to 12. I miscolored that.
I was going to say, it doesn't look right to me.
That is
I feel
not
like I
right.
moved him up.
Jason, you moved him up. Wow, you had him really low beforehand. I forgot about that. Jason, talk to me. I'm going to throw this to you because of all this. Why the jump, and why'd you have him so low to begin with? I assume I know why, but I want to hear you say it.
Of course you know. If anybody has been listening to the show for any length of time, you know why. I absolutely hate running back committees. I hate them. And that is how Atlanta works. They work with running back committees. Now, the reason I moved him up is because new offensive coordinator, someone who likes to use one running back, and if he's going to use one running back, I feel like he's going to use the more talented of the two, which would, in this case, be Devonta Freeman. Now, he's not the typical guy that he would use. If you just go by physical ability, the kind of runner he likes, then he would go with Coleman. But in this particular case, Devonta Freeman is so talented that he is going to demand those carries. That could be a problem because he is not used to getting as many carries as he's probably going to get now. So that could end up causing him issues with either injuring him or stifling his production a little bit. But overall, I had to bump him from where I had him. I had him very, very low before because of the fact that they were in a committee. Now I'm kind of seeing that they may go away from that committee look, and they may go with that one running back, and then spell him a little bit more with Coleman, which would make more sense, to be honest. I'm not a Coleman truther at all. I don't believe in Coleman. Freeman's a much, much better running back, but I did move him up into my running back ones. That's how much I believe in him.
Yeah, I agree with Jason, man. The reason why I kept him there, just the overall talent, I think he's better than Coleman. With the new offense coordinator there, I love the wink and the gun he gave me with that. And, look at his track record with running backs. That's good, And then Freeman, man, this is what he wanted. I mean, not only the pay raise, but he wanted to be that guy. He has shown these last couple of years, why even when Shanahan was there, that hey, listen, stop disrespecting me. I mean, yeah, this Coleman kid is good, but don't stop disrespecting me. I am this guy, and I'm gonna show you every single down why I'm that dude. And he had some nasty games these past 2 seasons and put up some good numbers. I remember I got him on my team last year, and the guys that were drafting with us, they were talking crap. I'm like, hey, listen, I'll take Devontae Freeman at this price or at this round right here. And I did not complain, not one bit. I mean, the dude took me to the championship. I mean, the dude is that talented. And you got that talent on that offense, that just helps it even more. And I love their schedule this year, too. So, yeah, man, that's why I like Devontae Freeman.
Yeah, Devonta Freeman, and I moved him down, and it was really for no reason other than just because some of the people moved up ahead of him. I do like Devonta Freeman, and that's kind of hard for me to say because I have been kind of negative about him in the past, but he's gone out and proved it every single year. Now, I agree with Jason that, running backs committees are poison, but in some cases it does work. And Atlanta, and this is with Kyle Shanahan, we have to point out, it really did. Devontae Freeman was actually better on a per-game basis when Tevin Coleman played. When Tevin Coleman was out, he actually performed worse. So that's something to point out. Definitely a standout to offensive coordinator Kyle Shanahan, who, as we've now mentioned a few times, is gone. He's in San Francisco. New offensive coordinator, Sarkisian, he is a one running back type guy. Now, we're not exactly sure how it's going to play out because, he's in the NFL level now. The team has a set system. That's something they like. They want to keep going. He keeps saying he's going to not change much, but he's going to change some things. He's going to have different play calling tendencies. These are all reasons for concern. So that being said, though, Devonta Freeman, it doesn't sound like he's going to get any less targets, any less touches, any less production. It's just things to worry about a little bit. But as a whole, I do really like him. And yeah, he got paid big money, so we know he's going to be that guy. There was early indications, like Jason was also saying, well, Coleman is more the build of the guy he looks for, but they just paid Freeman, so I do like him. It's tedious, but he is a good player. He's consistent. He has been a very healthy player throughout his career thus far. He's only missed one game in his career, and that was in 2015, and that was when he was dealing with a concussion, which, that is what it is. So, Devonta Freeman, you could make some arguments one way or the other, but as a whole, I kind of feel like we're a little bit low on him as a show. But, at least we all have him as a running back one. So let's go ahead and move on to our number 10 guy, a guy that we were definitely high on as a show, but I think for good reason. And that is Isaiah Crowell, Cleveland Browns. Now, I've moved him down to 11, and that's literally just because of what I was talking about with Freeman. Some players just moved ahead of him. Both of you have moved him up. CJ, you have moved him to 10. Jason, you have moved him to 6. So, talk to me about Isaiah Crowell, a guy who's currently going, for us, as number 10, for average draft position as number 14, as the second pick in the third round. The only running back we're talking about tonight that's not having an average draft position in the first 2 rounds.
That's disrespectful. I mean, you saw what this guy did last year. I mean, he came on. He did more with less that was around him. And we talked about this before, man. They made some additions to the offensive line. They got Hugh Jackson really believes in this kid. He wants to put him out there and give him opportunities. And then hopefully if this kid Kaiser gets the role, then that would probably help him out too, because I think that's the only really thing holding him back is that quarterback position, and can that passing game get going? Because if it doesn't, then once again, this is a candidate for the Todd Gurley Award last year, and they can be really bad. But I have faith in this offense and that they can be able to get it going, and that at least the passing game can be serviceable.
Jason, this is your guy, so tell me about him.
Yeah, this is my guy. All right. So I've mentioned before, and obviously just going to have to say it again. Isaiah Crowell has been consistently getting better every single year. His numbers go up every single year. He looks good every single year. He's probably the most consistent thing on the Browns offense over the last 3 years. So you look at a guy coming in, and he had an awful, just dumpster fire of a team he had to play for, and yet he still was a very, very serviceable, if not good, running back for them. And his numbers reflected that. So I think that given the updates they've done for this team, the fact that the defense looks like it's going to be much more stout this year than it was last year, it's going to keep them closer in games. The ability to use their running back more often. They're going to get him some passes out of the backfield a little bit more. He's a very good blocker. He is powerful between the tackles. He can get an extra, like I mentioned before, and I wrote an article with him about him. Okay, he gets extra yardage just by sheer will, and that's the kind of runner that I absolutely love, and that's why I'm so high on this guy. I think he's going to continue to get better, and they've upgraded that offensive line, as CJ already alluded to. I think once they have consistency at the quarterback position and they're able to run the offense the way that they should, I think we're going to see this guy break out a little bit and kind of show us something this year.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy, like you said, he's gone up in touches and yards every single year. Had a small down season in average yards per touch in 2015, but then he blew it out of the water last year almost with 198 carries, almost averaging 5 yards a carry. That's fantastic. 7 touchdowns, and what was, for lack of a better word, and it's actually pretty appropriately, a dumpster fire in Cleveland last year. I mean, holy crap, was that team in need of a lot of help. And that's why they had 3 first-round picks this year. But, look, he...
And used them very, very well, by the way.
They did. They drafted very well, which is tedious to me as a Ravens fan, of course, being in that division, because I can see that they're building something good. I think they're still a couple years out, but they're going to be building for a decent period of time. But that's neither here nor there. That's a different conversation. But no, Isaiah Crowell, he has been the one constant on that offense for the last 3 years, and he has been getting better every year. They have done, as you guys mentioned, nothing but improve that offensive line. They drafted some young talent. They brought in some amazing Pro Bowl offensive linemen as well. I mean, Isaiah Crowell, holy crap, he is like sleeper breakout candidate like I've ever seen. And I feel like a lot of people are really sleeping on him because, as I mentioned before, he's the only one on this list that we're talking about today who's not going on average as a running back 1, just in some various order to how we have it. And he's going as a running back 2.
Amazing.
So, I mean, if you draft a running back in either one of the first 2 rounds, get a running back, get a wide receiver, turn around, grab Isaiah Crowell in the 3rd, to us, you're getting a sneaky second running back 1 in the 3rd round. That is amazing value. He is involved in the passing game. He is involved in obviously he is the rushing game there. I mean, last year he had 40 receptions on 52 targets. He didn't get any touchdowns out of it, but that team as a whole kind of struggled for touchdowns. So that should improve this year. The quarterback play should improve. Of course, they drafted Kaiser. I don't want to say it's going to improve with Brock Osweiler, but I mean, he's there, and Cody Kessler, and so on and so forth. The best guy's going to win. Brock Osweiler exists. But I think that no matter who it is, they're going to do better than RG3 did when he was in there, and then the carousel people that started behind him throughout the season. So better offensive line, better opportunity, better the system's the same, but better quarterback play backing up the system. This is a guy who we're all high on because I think we see the bigger picture here. If he doesn't finish as a running back 1, I will honestly be shocked. I think you guys agree with that.
I will as well.
Absolutely.
I absolutely. Well, I mean, he like we said, how bad this offense was. And I'll just make one more point about Isaiah Crowell.
14
as
last
bad
year.
As that offense was last year, almost 1,000 yards.
Yep.
Almost 1,000 yards he ran for. That's amazing with that team he had to run with.
Yep, almost 1,000 yards and still finish as the running back 14 on the season for fantasy. So, yes, even just on trends alone, if it wasn't for all the surrounding upgrades that we're talking about, he would still project on average to finish as a running back 1. A low-end 1, but hey, a running back 1. So let's move on. We're already out of time. Where'd the time go? It always flies when we're having fun. Number 11 is Todd Gurley, Los Angeles Rams. We have him at 11. He's going at 11 as the 6th pick in the 2nd round. I stayed the same. CJ stayed the same. Jason with a sizable bump from 18 to 8. It looks like you're finally coming around on him. I'm going to throw it to you just because I know how much you hate Todd Gurley, but I mean, come on. Having him at 18, that's ridiculous.
I don't hate Todd Gurley. All right,
you hate the situation.
I don't trust Todd Gurley. Okay, it's not about hatred. It's about lack of trust. I don't hate the guy. Okay, he's a good player. He showed himself to be a good player in his rookie year. He was fantastic. He shredded my Cardinals. Respect for that. Okay, I'm not one of those players that one of those fans that hates a player just because they played well against their team. I respect that, okay, especially against a team that had a top 5 defense like the Arizona Cardinals. So impressive, respect to Todd Gurley for that. My problem is the situation he's in and the fact that he absolutely just crapped the bed last year. Okay, absolutely horrible compared to what he had done the year before. So that is inconsistency, and I hate inconsistency more than anything else when I'm playing fantasy. So that's why I had him as low as I had. Now, there is hope because you look at this almost said St. Louis. You look at the Los Angeles Rams team, right? This is the first time I've actually done that. You look at this Rams team, and there's actual hope there because with a new regime in place, no more Jeff Fisher mediocrity that they have to deal with that offense. They're gonna bump up the ability of the offense. They're going to take care of the fact that they've got a bad offensive line by being more dynamic. So we're going to see more passes to Todd Gurley. We're going to see more specialized packages. We may even see some wildcat out there. I think all of this bodes well for Todd Gurley's numbers. They're going to be less apt to be able to just stack the box against him. They're going to have to back up and deal with the fact that Jared Goff is going to get carte blanche to throw the ball whenever he wants to. I don't think that was the case last year. I think Jeff Fisher was telling him just protect the ball, which is good for a rookie quarterback. But this guy needs to be able to open up and throw the ball down the field. I think he's going to do that this year with this new regime that's there, and I think Todd Gurley is going to be a beneficiary of that.
CJ?
You know what? I like the situation. I mean, when I was coming up putting my rankings, I was actually going to slide him down. But I said, I have faith in Todd Gurley to bounce back, and I have faith in Sean McVay. He's a very, very intelligent coach, very innovative. I like what he did with the Redskins. You look at his track record now. If he can be able to put that into the Rams offense, I think this would be good. So, I like the pieces that they brought there, and I think that he can be able to put together an offense to be able to get Todd Gurley back to being the guy that he was his rookie year. I mean, it was just like Jason said, it was just this complete mess last year, with the move, and then you just got that mediocre coach with Fisher. It was just a bad situation, man. So I like the fresh vibe that's going there. I like what I'm seeing there on Bleacher Report and even on Instagram. I follow him. So I think this is going to be a good bounce back year for Todd Gurley, and that's why I have him at 8.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be better than last year. He was hit faster than anyone else in the league last year. I mean, he was basically getting the ball and being hit in the backfield every single time.
Yep.
And we talked about this on the head coaching show that we did. Again, we keep referencing it, but it was good information. Sean McVay, an offensive-minded coach coming from Jay Gruden's system. Jay Gruden, a very good offensive coach, of course, the head coach of the Washington Redskins. We've seen how productive that can be for real life and for fantasy. Kirk Cousins last year almost had 5,000 yards. There you go. We also mentioned about the hiring of offensive coordinator Matt LaFleur, who was a longtime assistant, worked with Kyle Shanahan 8 out of the last 9 seasons. So again, Kyle Shanahan, and last year, the best offensive coordinator in the league, leading the league's best offense. So, holy crap, the sky's the limit. I mean, Jason, you said it perfectly. They're getting away from the mediocrity of Jeff Fisher, Mr. 8-8 on a good day. I mean, holy crap. So, look, we know that there's talent there. They've got so many first-round picks, but just being able to utilize it properly. And now they have 2 great offensive minds to try and work together and figure out a new offensive system that they have a lot of gadget players that they can really make this work with. I don't think any of them are household names except for Todd Gurley, but I honestly would not be surprised in a year or two if some of them have become household names. Tavon Austin maybe is there. They've just got so much to work with. They've got great history, of course. Both Jay Gruden's system and Kyle Shanahan are both proven to be very good for the running game. So I love the schemes they're going to be drawing up. Todd Gurley, I know they've done a lot to shore up that offensive line. They brought in some guys. They made some draft picks. They made some moves. We saw his rookie year. Very, very good. Freak athlete. We know all the reports coming out of college. this guy just underwhelmed last year. And the only reason we all say he was a huge bust, because he did finish as a running back too, is because he was being taken as the first running back off the board. So that's the big negative stigma around him. If he can get back on track, which he should, with behind a better offensive line, which he has, with a better offensive system, which he is guaranteed to have, anyone would be really better than Jeff Fisher. You have to assume he improves on his sophomore slump. This is the magical third year. He's got all the right pieces in place to help him progress forward. I love Todd Gurley. I mean, I really want to get him higher than 10 right now. The only reason that I haven't moved him up from there is the way other people have moved and being a little bit cautious because I need to see some stuff in preseason. But, I mean, look, this is a guy who could easily get back to what we were thinking he was going to be in 2016. And you can get him in the middle of the second round. So maybe you go ahead and grab that elite wide receiver in the first round, turn around, get Todd Gurley, and maybe then you grab Isaiah Crowell, and then you are set with some sleeper running backs. I'm just saying, could work out nicely. Let's move on to our number 12 guy, the final guy of the day, which now this really shocks me that we're this low on this guy. But, I mean, I'm sure I can guess the reason why. Number 12 on our consensus rankings is DeMarco Murray, Tennessee Titans. Now, I have him all the way up at 4. Which is where a lot of analysts that I respect and I've talked to, they have him around that area as well for good reason. But there's also the counter argument, which I'm sure you guys are going to make, because you have him at 12, CJ, and Jason out of your running back ones at 13, going on average as the 7th running back as the first pick in the second round. Can I safely assume that this is all risk aversion? Either or.
Okay, well, first off, let me just say this. I actually was higher on DeMarco Murray earlier on in the offseason process. I think all the shuffling around and moving and additions kind of blurred my eyesight on him a little bit, and that's why I had him as low as I had him, because I actually moved him up.
You had him at 14, you moved him up to 13. Yeah.
Right. I had him way down. I had him in the middle of my twos. But the more I think about that, the more it doesn't feel right. I think part of it was because of the whole Derrick Henry breathing down his neck thing and everything like that. But you know what? I need to stick to my guns. And I've said this before about DeMarco Murray. He's the guy there. You know, Henry's great. He is great. But this guy is the guy. If you look at his entire career, he had one really bad year where he was in a Chip Kelly offense that did not work well to his strengths.
No.
Not his fault, you know. Even with that year, he still averages 4.6 yards per carry. That's fantastic. He's had 1,000 yards 3 of the last 4 years. One of those years, he was the leading rusher with the Cowboys. He ran for 1,845 yards, which is beastly. Okay, and he's in a system now that plays to his strengths, that gives him the ability to be that guy, and he does have a good backup to spell him in Derrick Henry. And now they've added more pass-catching weapons. They've surrounded Mariota. They've given him the opportunity to be a little bit more proactive and get the ball down the field more. And I think that, again, is going to play a little bit more toward DeMarco Murray's strength. So I agree with you. I think I have him way too low. I think he's going to be going up in my rankings. It's just kind of hard to look at the guys that got ahead of him and decide who I want us to plant.
These rankings are fluid, by the way. You'll be able to see the updated rankings as they're updated on the website. Go ahead, CJ. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. So that's basically my mindset too. You know, I look at the guys that's in front of him for me personally, and I think he's perfect fit to cap off my running back ones. I mean, I like everybody that I have in front of him. There's no shot to DeMarco Murray. I think it's a good situation there. I think all the moves and stuff they did through the offseason, through the draft, I think at the end of the day, there's two people that benefit from this. Marcus Mariota being one, and I think DeMarco Murray being two. They can't stack the box, even though they know their desire and how they want to flow their offense is that exotic smash mouth. You still have to respect the passing game, so they're not going to be able to stack the box. So when DeMarco Murray is healthy, and you saw what he did with last year, he was very productive, very back to being in the system that suits his talents. And I think we're gonna get another good year out of him if everything works out as far as health wise. I think we should get another good year out of him, and he should put up running back top 10 running back fantasy numbers, man.
Yeah. I have him a little bit high at 4. I'm much more comfortable having him around 5, 6, which is where I had him at 5 initially, but me dropping Ezekiel Elliott is what moved him up. At 4, it feels a little rich, and it's for a lot of the reasons you guys have mentioned. He did wear down last season in the second half, dealing with some injuries and some other minor problems. So that's something to consider. But he's going to the second year in this offense. He'll be in better shape. He'll be ready to handle the workload. Derrick Henry, though, is a concern. Derrick Henry, he got less than a third of the touches that DeMarco Murray had, but he was very good with those touches. He got almost 500 yards. He actually averaged 1/10 of a yard more per carry. So that's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but when you break down the numbers, it's notable. He got 5 touchdowns. These are all concerns. But the team has come out. They have stated time in and time out, DeMarco Murray is our guy. They are very committed to running the ball, and as we've talked about extensively, they have drastically upgraded the pass-catching offense. They're not going to be able to stack the line like they were all last season. So I think DeMarco Murray is very primed to have another great season this year. And like Jason said, the only one he's really had that was not a great season, unless he was injured, was the 1 year with the Eagles, because Chip Kelly was trying to get him going laterally when he is and always will be a north-south runner. So, I'm very high on DeMarco Murray. 4 is a little high. I'm going to tweak some things. He'll probably end up being 5 or 6 for me, but, I still like him as a top-tier running back. I could see your arguments why you guys have him down as a lower-end running back 1, or in Jason's case, a high-end running back 2. But, no, that's too low. I can't get behind that. But lower-end running back 1, it's just there's too much opportunity and too much of a proven track record and too much that's working for him in his favor at this moment. We could go on, but we got to get out of here. Somehow we managed to talk about 12 running backs for over an hour, so that's going to do it for us today. Everyone, please make sure you guys tune in on Tuesday when we will be continuing our running back conversation, debates, these consensus rankings as we move on to our running back 2s. It's a show you're not going to want to miss. There'll be a lot more controversy than these top guys. These guys are pretty universally the top tier guys around the industry. It's just who has them where and why. As we mentioned, the Listener League, everybody. If you want to play against us in fantasy football, your last chance is to submit by Monday. You have through Monday to go to iTunes, give us a rating, give us a review. At the end of the review, make sure you leave us a Twitter handle or an email address so we can reach you guys if you are selected. And then we will be announcing the winners on Tuesday's show. So if you want to play with us, don't miss the opportunity. You can support the show, as we always mention, on Patreon. We keep referencing this coaching show. If you want you can listen to that now. We put that out free to everybody. But if you want a lot more content like that, head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Get yourself these bonus episodes, bonus perks, and it really helps us keep these lights on, keep doing what we're doing. We love what we do. We want to be able to offer you even more stuff, but unfortunately, we have to kind of grow before we can get there. So you can help us doing that by heading over to Patreon. You can visit, as we mentioned, all these rankings are live on the website, thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. Again, thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. And just make sure you guys come back every Tuesday, Friday. We're going to be here all throughout the season giving you the start sits, waiver wire editions, all that goodness to help you hopefully bring home a fantasy title. And you can follow us individually. Of course, the show is at the FF Fanatics. I'm at G Palmer FFF. CJ is at CJ Hickman 89. Jason is at Jason Cabrera 13. So any parting thoughts before we sign off, guys?
Guys, have a good weekend. Get your book, get your pen and paper out, man. Watch some tape. Those guys that you like, see how they playing, and then once again, ready. Draft time is coming, guys. Oh
yeah, I'm going to be using a lot of NFL Game Pass. Getting that coach's view, condensed games, powering through, watching the players. It's good stuff. Just saying, that's a tool we use. So, all right, everybody. Jason, any thoughts?
Guys, feedback. We absolutely love feedback, even if it's negative feedback. Give us some feedback. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what direction you'd like to see the show go.
We love a good conversation. Yeah, if you're on YouTube, comment down below. We love those conversations. We're pretty good about getting back to you guys. And, of course, Twitter. That's a great way to talk to us as well. So, all right, we're out of here. Absolutely. Take care. Enjoy your weekends. We will see you on Tuesday. Bye.